And welcome back to the Constitutionals Podcast. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is the premier podcast for the website, cpostcomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. I got another issue with the camera. I guess that SD card inside the camera is dying. And I noticed this because last week, for this is episode 193 of the Constitutionals Podcast, premier podcast website. Anyway. I noticed last week that the camera shut off 10 minutes into the first segment of the podcast. And then I'm shooting news time very late this week. For good reason. There was no story. And I was shooting for like maybe 5 minutes, and the camera shut off. Like it stopped recording and then shut off. I went, that's very odd. The last time that happened, it was an issue with the SD card. So the camera's old. There's no point to it. But I am broken. I don't have anything for a camera, so we'll just have to make do. If the camera shuts off, it shuts off. I miss the GoPro. It's sitting over there, but it just won't work. It's just not going to work. Anyway, here we are recording the podcast. The day is supposed to go out. Just didn't do it yesterday. Yes, I have no job. I just didn't feel like doing it yesterday. Also you got time, today to do it. That's about all that's going on with me. This morning actually, I went to the gym, as I usually do. Went to the gym, came home, had my breakfast, sat around, applied for jobs for about an hour, and then at 9:30. This is 9 o'clock. It was like 9 o'clock, and I go, I guess I'll watch The Shining. So I watched The Shining. I have a purpose. Dr. Sleep is leaving HBO Max next week, and it's been on HBO Max for like 5 months, and it's a 2.5 hour movie, and I just never found time to watch it. So now I have the time. So I plan on watching that at some point later today. Yes, I am watching both movies back to back in the same day. I meant to do that with Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit films, but that's a commitment. It's a commitment, especially because I have the extended versions on Blu-ray, and for the Lord of the Rings in particular, each movie's on 2 discs. So that would mean about an hour and a half into the first movie, I have to get up, press, whatever console I'm using to watch them on, press the eject button, get the second disc, put it in there, wait, 5 minutes for it to load up. It's very interesting because they have these, for both the Xbox and the PlayStation, it takes forever to get to if you're playing a movie on either one of them, it takes forever to get there. And to the menu to press play and everything. I noticed this because I was watching the Back to the Future movies back to back. And it was so like I did like one day Back to the Future, then another day Back to the Future 2, and then another day Back to the Future 3, so 3 days. And it took a good 5 some odd minutes to get there. So interesting. And then this morning, this means nothing in the long run, but I was looking up how the next generation of consoles, the Xbox Series X and the PS5, I almost said X5, how both of those are as 4K Blu-ray players, because I have an extensive collection of DVDs and Blu-rays and one 4K disc, which is 1917, and I have this nice collection. Which when people see it, they go, that's a lot of movies. Who watches discs anymore? And I go, I do. And then I proceed to not watch discs for a very long time. But you get these consoles have these 4K players in them. And I want to take advantage of them. And one day I'll have a television to take advantage of that as well. And also I get the consoles themselves. But I want to take advantage of them and use the disc drives by buying physical media. And also, one day Apple, Google, Amazon, they could go, we don't want to do this anymore. And they could just stop supplying digital movies. Anyway, so I looked up how they fare as 4K players. Apparently it is okay because their main purpose isn't, for watching these movies and playing these discs. It's for playing video games. but they are great 4K streamers. So if you have 4K HDR, all that crap stuff that you watch on Netflix or Disney Plus or HBO Max, then it works. But the discs in particular, they're a little iffy. But, whatever. That's a good 5 minutes. Let's get into this. Let's get into this story. To the first story. Now, this one comes, this is about Barb and Star. It comes from Variety. Written by Clayton Davis, Barb and Star won't ever qualify for Golden Globes or SAG Awards under the current rules. And ever is not a hyperbole. When I was reading the story, it looks like the movie's going to have an issue for eligibility even next year. So already we're in a very hard time when it comes to award seasons and stuff. They had to extend the years, and then this year, for the next season, it's going to be shortened. It's going to go from, I think, like March to December next year for next year's awards. Should they go on at the regular times in February? But now they're all going on in April and May, in March and May, March through May, I think. If I was, I was watching Kristen Wiig was on Stern last week, and so I was watching her interview this week, and he talks about how Bridesmaids was nominated for an Oscar. And these awards, things get nominated every single year and you forget. But Bridesmaids was nominated for an Oscar for writing, which is amazing. And it's written by Annie, I can't pronounce her last name. Kristen Wiig and Annie Momolo. I was going to say Momolo. It's written, and this new movie that came out, Barb and Star Go to Vista Del Mar, it's still equally as lauded, I would say. But now, these eligibility things are really messing up the timeline here, as the kids say. I don't know. That's a Twitter thing. Unfortunately, Clayton writes, the film is caught in a COVID awards loophole under the current rules and guidelines for the Golden Globes and SAG Awards and is not eligible for either award in 2022. The Lionsgate comedy was originally scheduled to be released theatrically in July of 2020, but then it was pushed back to July 2021. And then, during the holiday period, Christmas and New Year's, the distributor decided to cancel the film's theatrical release, put it on VOD on February 12th. January 11th, Lionsgate announced its plans, and the film was now on the Oscars' extended eligibility window. January 27th, Variety reported exclusively the film was submitted for Academy consideration in all categories, including Best Picture, but notably Original Song, with I Love My Boobies, written by Richard Cheese? Oh my God. Richard Cheese is a guy who takes popular songs and he and his band make a swing version of it. So they did, Down with the Sickness for Dawn of the Dead remake, I believe, in 2005. It was one of those. It was by the same band who does Chop Suey, who is with the front man is a racist. Is it Get Up, Get Out, and Sickness? Get Up, Come On, Get Down. Yeah, I don't know. Who cares? Anyway, Richard Cheese, Wiig, and Momolo wrote that song. And then Welcome to Palm Vista, written by Momolo and Wiig. However, for the Golden Globes, the deadline for submissions was November 30th. They can't do it. And at the time, the film was still thought to be a summer 2021 release. So it still wouldn't have been eligible if they submitted November 30th. When the release plans were officially announced, it was too late for the film to throw itself in the ring for this year's awards consideration. There are no official eligibility announcements by any major awards for the next year regarding this year. So now, and the assumption is between March 2021 and December 2021 is the eligibility period. So now, Barb and Star to Go to Vista Del Mar is in a purgatory for anything, and it's so far the biggest comedy of the year. I just saw I just saw on the Chromecast with Google TV, which now has Apple TV. Thank God, Jesus. But I just saw on there Nomadland is on Hulu, so I can't wait to check that out because that is going to be a big movie this year. There's people moving below me, and if you hear any rumbling, it's them. They're moving in. Quite possibly the loudest moving I've heard in my life. Okay. So now these new rules, because of the pandemic, they've changed everything, and now there's no loopholes, is what I'm looking at. Anything that was submitted between February 3rd, 2021 and February 28th, 2021, and therefore become ineligible for the 2021 awards because their release is delayed to a date after February 28th, 2021, also will not be eligible for 2022 awards. So if you anticipate your film's release date will be delayed to a date after February 28th, 2021, please advise us prior to the announcement of our 2021. So these are new rules from the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. So that they screwed over a lot of these movies, including SpongeBob movie, SpongeBob on the Run. Is it called the SpongeBob movie, Sponge on the Run? Oh, Jesus. I don't like that at all. You know what I also don't like? I also don't like that that the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, originally supposed to end the series. SpongeBob gets gets the second Krusty Krab, and he's the manager. But then series goes on, obviously, because it's one of the biggest kids' cartoons ever. Then the second movie comes out. No continuity. I don't care if there's continuing in the show. I didn't continue in the movies, at least. God, he met David Hasselhoff? I mean, jeez. I'm so angry. Free Britney, free SpongeBob continuity. There's going to be a meeting held and discussions because this is going to affect a lot of movies, including Minari, because they had to be forced to submit to foreign language. Minari is directed by Lee Isaac-Chung, starring Steven Yeun, I believe. And they had to be in the foreign language category because of these new rules. And just like Lulu Wang's The Farewell. This is all upside down, and just not a good situation all around. But I think they should have just treated it, extend the windows, but treat it as the same as the last year, because then not a lot of movies are still released. I think that's just the whole thing. And you don't have to accept every movie. You don't have to have a number. You don't have to have 10, nominations for best comedy musical, even though not many comedy musicals came out. But there's 2 comedies in that category now, and there's like 3 musicals, and one of them is The Prom. Anyway, it's all a not good situation. Listen, when we come back, we're going to go break right now. When we come back, we're going to talk about 2 more stories. And then I'm going to go for a walk. Oh, Jesus. Coming back from break. 3, 2, 1. And we're back from break. I almost fell out of this chair. Maybe I'll leave it in. Maybe I'll leave in the part where I fell out. If you're watching the video, where I almost fell out of the chair. I was just thinking to myself, and I've been thinking about this for like the past couple of weeks as I've been perusing the streaming services. Now, if you look at services like Tubi and Pluto and Crackle, they're free and they're ad supported, and typically they have very crappy and stupid movies and shows on there. I can adjust the microphone and nobody can hear me. It's wonderful. But they have very, bad shows and movies. But now Tubi in particular, and I'd say Pluto too, they've stepped up their Crackle sucks. They've stepped up their game in terms of acquisitions. I was just thinking, movies, they come out, they're nominated for these awards, and they're supposed to be these highly prestigious, lauded films. And now they're movies from like the early 2000s that were at the Oscars are now on Tubi for free to watch with ads. It's crazy. It's so crazy. It's so crazy that these movies that we held in such prestige are now on this free website on YouTube for free, legally, because you can watch movies for free on YouTube now. I just thought that was so wild. It's very wild to me. And then there are movies that I have not even seen, like Brazil. I think that's available through my local library on Canopy or Hoopla, one of those. And I've been trying to watch it for years. And one time it was on a streaming service, and I want to say Amazon. It was on my list for like 7 months, and I just never watched it. Anyway, let's get into this second story. This comes from, this is about BuzzFeed. This comes from the New York Times, written by, oh boy. Okay. Katie Robertson. There's an issue. This was in a live post. So it's one of those posts that is updated constantly. And that's the reason why I was freaking out. BuzzFeed finalized its acquisition of HuffPost. HuffPost was purchased by BuzzFeed in November from Verizon Media by BuzzFeed. I do think this is a great acquisition. I don't remember if we ever talked about this. The acquisition, which was part of a larger stock deal between BuzzFeed and Verizon Media, will see HuffPost operate as a distinct brand within BuzzFeed. The website and its editorial staff will remain independent from BuzzFeed News. Matt Mittenthal, a BuzzFeed spokesperson said. And BuzzFeed also owns Tasty, which is like Bon Appetit, but not canceled. Everybody was telling jokes about Tasty, like how it's all crappy and it's, made for the internet. And, Bon Appetit's the one that's dying. My iPad is on Verizon because it's a wireless thing, while my phone is on Google Fi. But for Verizon, you can do these, you get like free, coupons and experiences and stuff. And they have a 6-month subscription to Apple News Plus. I'm not a huge fan of Apple News Plus because they're not paying people directly for what they write. But I got it for free for 6 months, and I'm looking. You can like read magazines as well, and you have Wired, Bon Appetit, Vogue, Variety, all the magazines you can want to read. And I opened one. And I just went, why am I doing this? And I closed it. And I just haven't read a magazine since. Like I really tried. But that's it. I think this is a great deal for BuzzFeed. I think they should just fold BuzzFeed Nude. BuzzFeed Nude. It's the porn site for BuzzFeed. BuzzFeed Nude, and then it has the Pornhub song on it. I like that. That was a good joke for myself. Anyway, I just wanted to say this, that they should definitely fold in BuzzFeed News into HuffPost, because I do think in terms of reputability, HuffPost is a better site. I cannot take anything seriously from BuzzFeed News. Like they broke a lot of sexual assault stories, and they have like a lot of good investigative journalism. And then it's from BuzzFeed News. I think the name is part of it. Like if you saw like a serious interview between me and Martin Scorsese, who we'll talk to in a second. Like if you just saw like a 2-hour interview on cpluscomedy.com, like that would be, little, it would take away from the magic. So anyway, I think they should fold in BuzzFeed News and HuffPost, because I think that would be cool. And then maybe get rid of the BuzzFeed name entirely. And Tasty. Ugh, I hate that. Yeah, like have BuzzFeed, then HuffPost, then Tasty. Have those be the pillars. And I could see that happening within a couple of years. I don't know if it will happen, but I think there's a bigger chance of that happening than them, putting more serious stuff on BuzzFeed News. If you get what I'm saying. If you get what I'm saying. All right, this last thing, speaking of Martin Scorsese, he wrote an essay for Harper's Magazine, and it's called Il Maestro. Federico Fellini and the Lost Magic of Cinema. And I'll give you the short of it. I skimmed over it yesterday or a couple of days ago when it came out, and it talks about Fellini, how he becomes a prominent filmmaker, and how he works with creating art. He's creating the art of film, but then also becoming more than what film has to offer, even at the time. And I'll say this: it's a thing that you can probably say about Kubrick, because when I was watching a couple of minutes of the featurettes on the 2007 special edition of The Shining, Disc 2, Spielberg is interviewed for and at the top of this, and he says that for Kubrick, you can never turn a Kubrick movie on and then turn it off halfway through. You'll have to watch the entire thing. He has this this escape button that he presses, and all of a sudden you watch everything. So I'm really butchering the quote, but that is for me to say that is The Shining. Really, movie came out in 1980, stands the test of time, with the exception of the set. It stands the test of time. It's a movie that really stands out for what it is. And the same can be said for Fellini's work, and the same possibly said for Scorsese at some point. And what Scorsese is saying in this essay, and I'm going to summarize it up in a couple of words for you. He's tired of movies being called content. This is something I harp against, the word content, and Harper's Magazine, and I could not agree more. When I saw that headline, when I saw that email come in, I thought, this is exactly how I feel. And he's right. And he's been in the news for the past year talking about how Marvel movies aren't real movies. I even though I'm not a fan of superhero movies, the biggest fan anymore, because I used to be, but now I think they're all trash, especially Deadpool. Jesus. But since I'm not a fan anymore, you can step out of yourself and go, yeah, they're not the best. Just because they have a bunch of black people doesn't mean it's a movie that's going to move things forward, because it definitely did not for Disney. Anyway, movies are not content, and he is correct. Now, here's a good little summary from Haley Bosselman. You should go over at Variety. You should go read his essay, or at least skim through it. At least get to the part where he's talking about content, and definitely read what he's trying to say, because he's not bashing what you think it is, like what you call it, but he definitely disagrees with you. As recently as 15 years ago, the term content was only heard when people were discussing the cinema on a serious level, and then it was contrasted with and measured against form. Then gradually it was used more and more by the people who took over media companies, most of whom knew nothing about the history of the art form or even cared enough to think that they should. He sounds like a bunch of people I don't want to be around when they talk about film. But I definitely do agree with him. Now, he's called the industry as inhospitable to art, but he is teamed up with Netflix for a movie. He's teamed up with Apple TV Plus for his next movie, Flowers of Algernon. I don't know what it's called. But in some fashion, they come with these big budgets. His movies, they come with big budgets, and these streamers are willing to dole out the budgets, whereas regular distributors and producers are not. So he's kind of a hypocrite in that sense, but there's no surprise anymore, is what he's saying. Here's another quote. Here was an artist who he's talking about Fellini, managed to express the anxiety of their nuclear age, the sense that nothing really mattered anymore because everything and everyone could be annihilated at any moment. We felt this shock, but we also felt the exhilaration of Fellini's love for the arts of cinema and consequently for itself. And then he says the industry needs to be, kind of resuscitated, restarted. Even though it's a huge, huge business now. And again, I'm just summarizing this via a Variety article and my own musings from reading this very long essay. But he is in some respects right about this movies being turned into these cash cows, these grabs, these blockbuster films. Even though his film Irishman was a blockbuster, and not really being treated as what they should be. But then, on the other hand, I watched Outside the Wire with Anthony Mackie and the kid from Snowfall, I believe, and it's a fun action flick. There's bad one-liners in there, but it's a fun action flick with explosions and killings and a lot of stupid stuff going on. I might have fallen asleep at least 10 minutes and at the last minutes, last half hour, but still fun to watch. Not everything has to hit this prestige level, this A+ thing that everybody it's either you love film or you hate it, and things aren't. That was my eye. I'm rubbing my eye, and if you heard like a weird noise, that was my eye. But not everybody, but a lot of people, the majority of people tend to think that movies are good or bad. There's a black and white to it. There's black actors, white actors. Not many of one of them. How are movies being made today? Like the new Suicide Squad. It's all white guys and mostly white guys and like 2 people of color. Come on. And like 2 women. Come on, guys. Come on, James Gunn. There's more diversity in The Shining, and that was 1980, and there's 2 black people in it. So, anyway. And the problems have gone bigger than black or white. There's in a lot of ways there's more. There's other races out there that may be considered. But no, I'm talking about in terms of A or B. There's more out there. You've got to be able to. I think the best critics are able to the ones who don't have to rely on 5-star. 10 out of 10, 6 popcorns out of 19, they don't have to give a rating at the end. The best ones are the ones who can talk about something and talk about it exhaustively and say why something's good or bad and why something didn't work. That's why I stopped listening to Pop Culture Happy Hour, because it's a bad podcast. NPR, hire me. And that's why you have to read, and if you're going to read one review, read 20. Get a lot of different, if you have to, if you're a person who has to get 1 or 2 different opinions that aren't your own, then get 20 of them. Get so much more than what we already have, because at some point, you're either going to be loving every popcorn flick and thinking you're special because you sit down and watch that Schindler's List, or you're gonna be the prick who's sniffing his own fart, like on that episode of South Park when South Park was good. You're gonna be the person that's farting into a glass and sniffing it like it's a sifter or something. I don't know what fancy people do. Just don't call it content, and make your own decisions. There you go. But don't call it content, Don't popularize it. Listen, this has been fun. I got to go. If you like what you heard here, head to the website, cpluscomedy.com, where you can see me talking to comedians. Maybe Martin Scorsese one day. Who knows? YouTube.com/cpluscomedy if you want to see a video version of the show. Don't know why you would. You could also see News Time, our premiere show. It's like The Daily Show, except less funny. It's a news magazine show. I take one story, dig right into it. This week's episode is about black excellence in film and fashion. Literally the title. It's only 5 minutes. It's probably the shortest episode I've done in years. Instagram, Twitter. Oh no, what I say on News Time this week? I said Twittergram or Instater. Anyway, Twittergram at C Plus Comedy, Twittergram at Chad Black White. Like us on Facebook, rate, review, subscribe to this podcast. Tell your friends, please. There's dozens of listeners. I want at least a dozen more. Thank you for listening. Goodbye. Okay, nope. Press the wrong button. Here we go.